Hey, what's up guys? John here. California is moving forward in a new wealth tax. They're going to be taxing people that have left California to go to other states, such as Florida and Texas. They're going to be moving forward in this new mansion tax. They're extending the eviction moratorium. They're doing all these things to pursue people to fill this deficit that California now has. They want to go after the rich, the people that supply the jobs. But what happens when they continue pushing forward this regulation? I personally believe what's going to happen is there's just going to be less employers out there hiring employees. And if there's less job opportunities in this inflationary environment and California continues to get much more strict on the people that are supplying the opportunities for the people of California, I think we could see an erosion of California. And it hurts me to say that because I love California. I moved to California in 2006, got into real estate in 2008. Most of everything I know in real estate and business was learned in California. All my friends, connections, contacts, all in California. To have to leave that and to come to Florida and start over was a very hard thing for me to do, but I wasn't the only person that's went through that, right? People have had to make this choice. And unfortunately, I think over the next year or two, we're going to see more and more people making this choice because of these policies. I'm going to walk you through what's going on. It's really important. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to more people in California to wake people up, let people know what's really happening. Hopefully we can stop this. I mean, I'm hoping people can stand up for California in California and actually do something about this, because the direction California is headed in, it's a really bad thing for a lot of people. So please hit that like button. Take a look at this. State lawmakers consider wealth tax on the richest Californians. Legislation would tax an extra 1.5% of Californians with a worldwide net worth of more than $1 billion starting January 2024. Now, people will read that headline and they'll be like, okay, well, that's the end of the story. You know, just billionaires. We should tax the billionaires. They should be paying their fair share. But it goes much deeper than that. So don't just read the headline and think that's the story. Because what ultimately happens, who supplies the jobs? Who supplies the employment? It's the wealthy, right? The people that took the risk, that started the company. Now they have 1,000 employees, 5,000 employees, 10,000 employees, right? These are the people that have created these jobs. And when we look at what's going on right now, we have all these big companies that are leaving California that have left. Yeah, I mean, even a lot of people like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Dropbox CEO, a lot of companies have left California. And the reason that they left is because of the climate. They said increasing taxes or restrictive policies on business, ongoing lockdowns have led individuals, Silicon Valley companies to exit California over the last 2 years. In 2020, for the first time, California lost 70,000 residents on net, right? People are leaving because of this. And as they continue to pursue this wealth tax, it's just going to be more people that are going to be leaving. In Sacramento, California, some lawmakers will attempt to impose an additional tax on the state's richest residents. Alex Lee, an assemblyman, a progressive Democrat from San Jose, filed legislation that would tax an extra 1.5% on Californians with a worldwide net worth of more than $1 billion starting January 2024, so in 1 year, and 1% for those making more than $50 million. Lee's proposal aims to tax assets such as stocks and bonds that can skyrocket in value without incurring taxes until they are sold. He said that the tax would apply to the top 0.01% of Californian earners, can generate $22 billion. So they want to basically be able to go out there and send appraisers out there. They want to be able to go out there and look at everyone's assets, comb through their assets, and value these assets and tax them based on assets they have not sold. Right? You think about what this does. Far too long, we've allowed income inequality to deepen and fester in this state and this country while the rich get richer and the middle class shrinks behind. Legislation is part of a multi-state effort from progressive lawmakers across the country who say the nation's top earners need to pay their fair share. 7 other states will consider similar proposals, including New York, Washington, Illinois, Connecticut, Maryland, Minnesota, and Hawaii. The proposal in California would also establish a wealth tax advisory council to help determine funding and staffing to help collect the tax. Advocates note that the money could help boost funding for schools, housing, and other social programs. As of Monday, the bill had not yet been assigned to a committee or scheduled for a hearing. The measure will require 2/3 vote for the same legislation, and if passed, would ultimately be decided by voters in 2024 elections. Yes, I think it will be harder to get it through the state capitol and getting the votes through. Lee introduced a similar measure last year. The state's Franchise Tax Board said the agency would have to limit access to the information to verify reporting. Nothing the agency would have limited the ability to obtain information from other states and foreign jurisdictions. The FTB noted last year about 15,000 Californians are estimated to have a worldwide net worth above 20 million or 25 million if married, filing separately. Advocates for the latest version of this measure say it would require the wealthiest taxpayers to provide a net worth information sheet every 10 years, right? They even go on to say in other articles that they were calling this the Elon tax. What they were saying is that they want to pursue them if they go to other states, and they want to be able to track down their wealth and tax them accordingly. You look at a lot of these companies that have left, it's very fascinating to see how this whole thing is kind of escalating. This new mansion tax starts April 1st, 2023. It's a new documentary transfer tax that will be imposed on residential and commercial real estate property sales and transfers within the city of LA, where the consideration of value is more than $5 million. So you think about an office building, right? An office building is going to sell their property, and what are they going to do? They're going to incur massive costs. So what I think is ultimately going to happen, these property owners, they're going to be negotiating fees against the real estate agents because, hey, this new cost, somebody's got to pay for it. It's going to go to the real estate agent. It's going to go to the tenants inside of these properties. They're going to be pushing cost on to whoever they can push these costs on, just like a normal business owner, right? If a business owner feels additional cost, they push it on to the consumer. That's what's going to happen. It's going to continue trickling down. The new tax was approved in a ballot initiative entitled Measure ULA, United to House LA, in the November 8, 2022 election, and is commonly known as the mansion tax, but is officially called the Homelessness and Housing Solution Tax. You can give California $1 trillion, they won't solve homelessness. I mean, one thing that they can't do is solve a problem. What they want to do is they create problems, and they want to bring a solution to creating that problem is me taking more tax revenue from you to then do something, right? And who knows where that money actually goes. But do they solve homelessness? California's homelessness problem has never been worse, right? And they've been taxing and bringing out all these new measures and all these new committees and all these new solutions, but yet no solution's ever been really cured through that, right? If you look at, even in Venice Beach, they were building homes for the homeless. The average cost was like over $700,000 a housing unit, right? The current, that also is kind of mind-blowing to me that they would want to build housing for the homeless in Venice Beach when you could take it out. You can go to Rialto, you can go to different areas. And sure, it won't be Venice Beach, but they'd probably be able to build 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 housing units for every one in Venice Beach, right? Every single one that they would build in Venice Beach, right? The current documenting transfer tax in the city of Los Angeles is a combined city and county tax of 0.56% of consideration or value. The new tax, which is additional, in addition to the current transfer tax, is 4% of consideration of value $5 million, and 5.5% of consideration of value if it's $10 million. So, for example, $10 million property, the tax would be $550,000. Coupled with real estate tax, real estate agent commission is probably around 5%, 2.5% to the listing agent, 2% for the buyer's agent. That alone is 10.5%, plus transfer taxes. This is not including the traditional transfer tax, which is about 1%, and then escrow fees. So you start to add everything in, maybe 12%, 13%. So on a $10 million sale, you're looking at about $1.3 million in just cost of sale. And then on a $5 million property, the $5 million property at 4%. So you do the math, right? You start to add everything up. This is a really expensive bill that people are going to have to pay. But who's to say that they even have the equity in the property to be able to pay it? Right? This is all assuming that because it's a high-end luxury property that they have the money. But what if they don't have the money? What if they're, because of interest rates skyrocketing from 3% to 6 or 7%, maybe the economy pulling back, maybe they bought the property at the wrong time in the last few years. Now they're upside down on the property, and this 5% tax or 4% tax pushes them to the point of financial hardship, right? Who really knows? The tax applies to the total consideration of the value. It is not just the amount in excess of these thresholds. The tax applies regardless of whether the property is sold at a gain or a loss. For example, the property is sold for $20 million. The total transfer tax will be $1.212 million. Yeah, total transfer taxes, not including all the realtor fees and all that. $112,000 for the current transfer tax, plus $1.1 million for the new transfer tax. Okay. These thresholds are adjusted annually according to the Consumer Price Index. The new law does not specify whether the tax is to be paid by the seller or the buyer, so allocation of the tax is subject to negotiation. Exemptions from the tax are granted to nonprofit entities, government entities, certain organizations primarily involved in affordable housing development and property management, right? So we're looking at all these companies leaving California, but this is what I think is going to happen more and more and more. This just came out yesterday. Los Angeles expands renter protections before the eviction moratorium ends. Now, I sold a rental property in California when everyone believed that the eviction moratorium was going to end. They thought this was all gone. I thought the eviction moratorium was going to continue to get extended and that more and more and more problems are going to be coming for Los Angeles landlords, and the rights of landlords is going to be stripped away to basically nothing in the coming year or so. And I wasn't saying that to be dramatic. I believed it. I really did believe it, and I sold at the height of the market when everyone thought otherwise. Now we're looking at this, and you're going to, I think, start to believe what I was believing. LA expands renter protections before the eviction moratorium ends. Los Angeles has greatly expanded protections for renters, heading off the potential wave of evictions. The LA City Council voted to enact permanent tenant protections 11 days before a policy expires that prevents landlords from evicting tenants who claimed 19 related hardships. The council also expanded universal just cause eviction protections to hundreds of thousands of apartments and single-family homes, preventing Los Angeles landlords from arbitrarily evicting tenants. The new law will likely go into effect before the January 31st deadline for the end of the eviction moratorium. Now, they are working on a new piece of legislation to extend it before this deadline expires to June, right? So they're going to push to extend this eviction moratorium, I believe, because they're already working on the extension now. The new legislation is widely viewed as a victory for tenant rights advocates and underscores the political might of the council's progressive bloc. The 19 emergency rules were enacted amid unprecedented disruption at the start of the pandemic, but anti-eviction protections in Los Angeles remained in place even before the measure expired, with elected officials weary of increasing homelessness and overcrowding. Now, there is this notion that landlords are rich, that landlords are wealthy. But if you know anything about Los Angeles, you go to East LA, you go to South LA, you will see that most of those landlords are people from, South America. They came here 20, 30, 40 years ago. They opened a small business. They bought a duplex. They bought a triplex. They're everyday working class people. They're not these wealthy people driving around in Rolls Royces and Bentleys, traveling to Greece and, going to Bali and all that. No, these people are scraping by. And so these landlords are, they're in a really, really tough situation, a lot of them, right? So the media does a very, very good job at, painting the picture that the landlord is this wealthy, high-flying person in Los Angeles. It's just not the case. Opponents argued the soon-to-expire emergency rules had unduly burdened small landlords, and that the new regulation could jeopardize their business. The city could no longer ignore the needs of landlords or further burden them with the task of solving the city's housing crisis, says Abby King, the legislative affairs manager for Valley Industry and Commerce Associations. Supporters made in past pleas to pass a muscular policy before the emergency order ends. The new policy will set a minimum threshold for eviction for tenants who fall behind on rent, require landlords to pay relocation fees when a large rent increase would cause displacement. Landlords will no longer be allowed to evict tenants in any rental property, including single-family homes, unless there was unpaid rent documented. These lease violations, owner move-ins, or other specified reasons, the provision will start after 6 months or when the lease expires, whichever comes first. Some renters, including those in rent-stabilized units, already have just cause eviction protections, and making them universal expands the protections to 400,000 more units, according to the city's housing department. The new policy will block evictions until February 2024 for tenants who have unauthorized pets or have added residents who aren't listed on their leases. It also creates a timeline for paying rent owed from the emergency period. The tenants would have until August 1st to pay back rent accumulated between March 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021, and until February 1st, 2024 to pay back rent accumulated between October 1st, 2021 and January 31st, 2023. So they're giving massive extensions, but property owners still have to pay property taxes, they still have to pay their mortgages. Mayor Karen Bass plans to sign for tenant protections ordinance. Now, what I personally believe is that I think they're just going to continue kicking the can down the road. I mean, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is the 12th time, right? Like, how many times have they extended the eviction moratoriums? Usually it's like 30, 60, 90-day increments. We're approaching over 3 years, right? So if you would still think that this is going to actually, fall on these deadlines, I think that you're going to be mistaken. I think that this is just going to continue to get extended, and I think things are just going to get worse. And I'm very optimistic. I'm an optimistic guy, but I'm also realistic. Like, if you look at the trends, you look at what's happening, it's very clear. I want to congratulate the City Council, especially the Chair of Housing and Homelessness Committee council member, on passing these important protections, which are crucial to combating a potential spike in homelessness. What about the spike in property owner homelessness, multifamily property owner homelessness? Because these people, many of them, are going to be pushed to losing their properties. They don't take this into consideration. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop below, hit the like button, subscribe here. Subscribe also to my second channel. It's an interactive call-in show and a podcast. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok on the banner. You need help fixing your credit? We'd love to help you at GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. Give us a call at 561-430-5900. Catch you in the next video.